Just before we start the pod this week, I just want to give you a quick nudge to say subscribe to our YouTube channel and on your podcast provider. That helps us get found by other Boro fans and also keeps you up to date with all of our content we're pushing this season. So we've got transfer news, previews, news, and all sorts. But also, we've got a Patreon account this season, so make sure you subscribe to that as well. That helps support us as a podcast. It helps us unlock everything that we want to do this season. But for now, in this podcast, we chat about the pre-season victory against Marseille, the future of Marcus Tavernier, and we give our season predictions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Johnny, Dana and Tom, all the three Danas if you're watching us on YouTube. We're the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. But before we get to our preview and predictions on our preview show, we've got a game to discuss. With Middlesbrough beating Marseille 2-0 at the Riverside on Friday night from goals from Isaiah Jones and Marcus Tavernier in front of 12,000 at the Riverside. Guys, I want you to describe how you're feeling about the game and the upcoming season in as many words as you want. Dana, do you want to go first?
Yeah, just really excited. I can't believe that it's come around this quickly because I swear it was only 2 weeks ago that I was in Preston in that packed red away end watching Boro completely capitulate the final day of the season. So it's weird that it's come around this quickly, but I'm really excited. I think there's a lot to be positive about this season. I know that we're recording this and unfortunately Boro still don't have any more strikers, but even with that, there's a lot to be excited about. So yeah, I think the key word is just excited.
Okay, excited for Dana. Tom or Dana Martinez, how are you feeling about today's? How are you feeling in as many words as you want?
Yeah, I think quietly confident. I don't want to go too over the top with that, just because, it was a friendly match. Don't want to read too much into that. But we played well. There was some fantastic one-touch football through that match, which we didn't see as much of last season, but it does seem like it's been a focal point of pre-season. But also when you look at our defensive line now, and having Stefan in goal, that just looks so strong to me now. And having that as a base for the team, keeping the same midfield, and unfortunately, like Dana said, we still don't have any strikers, but we changed the system to adapt on that night, and it still worked fairly well. We obviously do still need to improve because we've got absolutely nothing in depth, but I think we've got a strong, solid squad this season, which it didn't look like last season. I think after the first few games, the defense was still looking a bit leaky. It does look much stronger now. Yeah,
it does. And I think with Lanahan coming in, he was the only voice you could probably hear at the Riverside throughout that entire game. But in terms of my words to describe how I'm feeling, I think it is what it is, to quote Tony Mowbray. I think we've got 14 players at the moment. Yes, we've got plenty of signings to make, and Middlesbrough going at the start of the season with a very, very thin squad. But of course, that can change. But we do have 8 games in August to try and get it right, or get the players in and try and integrate them and get things going. But let's have a quick look at the Marseille game then, because I don't want to spend too much time on it because it was just a pre-season game, and I think it's hard to fully assess where we'll be coming into the season just based on that performance, although it was good. But then how would you assess the performance in general?
There were a lot of good signs. I thought the first half was a little bit dull from both sides, and I mean, my halftime entertainment was seeing how much the Marseille fans were in complete despair about Milik's performance up front. But the second half was much better. I thought Stefan was good. I'm not going to go too big on him because I don't want to be honest. We will see how he kind of plays when the season grows and develops, he will probably develop with it. But he did look good playing that sweeper keeper role really well. Lenihan looks like a really solid pickup, and I thought both goals were great. And just as a sort of side point as well, I really like the way that Riley McGree plays football. I described it in a pre-season preview piece with the Tilehurst end as him being a gentle breeze gliding across the pitch. There's just an air of tranquility whenever he's on the ball because I think he's just so comfortable in it. I think it's those low socks, to be honest, but I think there could be a good season from Riley McGree. Yeah, there were a lot of positive signs, a lot of signs where you think, okay, yeah, we need more strength in depth and in quality, especially up front, but lots to be excited about.
Yeah, I'd agree with you with Riley McGree. I think he's just elegant on the pitch is probably the best way to say it. I think he's a really, really good addition from us in the January window. And I think he could have a massive season for us as well. But Tom, Dana already alluded to it, but 2 really well-worked goals. Good combination play, which we've seen throughout the pre-season. Can you see any more adjustments on last season in terms of style? Because it looks like Chris Wilder has definitely had time on the training ground to put things right.
Yeah, I touched on it earlier, but the increase in the amount of like one-touch football that we're seeing, and there's been a good increase in movement as well. I think the first goal kind of really summed that up because it was good one-touch football between Jones, Crooks, and I think there was someone else there as well. I can't remember.
What more?
Possibly, yeah. And to release Jones in the first place, but that movement down the right hand side was absolutely quality. And we saw it again, over parts on the pitch as well. Another adjustment, we actually have a left hand side now, and it was obvious that we were trying to use that. Tell you what, I do think Boro might be sticking around and covering the left wing back and left centre back position. Maybe even to start off the season with, but I think he'll be kind of like a depth option in both those positions this season. But it was good seeing that balance when you have a left footer at the left centre back position and what that can do, kind of unlocking Giles on the left hand side. So that was really good to see. And like I said about Lenihan at the back line earlier as well, it looks so strong. Lenihan, as you said, never stopped talking through the entire thing. There was never a point where he had the ball at his feet where I felt uncomfortable. And, it's maybe it'd be unfair to kind of say that about some of our defence last season, but I felt more comfortable than those points. I think, in terms of recycling possession at the back and keeping the ball on the floor, he was doing that extremely well. And then obviously the big change in goal as well is having a goalkeeper who can distribute so well from what we saw from Stefan. It's one game we're basing this on, so don't want to kind of go into that too much because things could change when we're in the championship and there's like a lot more in terms of pressure. But we definitely saw the ability there from Stefan, and hopefully you see more of that this season.
Yeah, his distribution was really, really good, wasn't it? I thought he was able to pick out players a lot more comfortably than we've ever seen, probably from a goalkeeper player for Middlesbrough. And in terms of like performances goal, it was relatively quite steady. But I know you were saying there, talking about Darragh Lenihan, and you became a Lena fan in the last podcast. Are you now more of like a Giles guy as well? Because we have got a left-hand side as well.
I'll probably be more of a Giles guy when I've seen a few more assists in person. Fair enough. He did get those 3 at Morecambe, but I wasn't there to be there and appreciate that in person. But you can see exactly what he brings to the team. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how him and Jones crack on in terms of assists this season from both sides. Like I said, having that balance. But Lenihan, yeah, very, very impressed with him and the organisational skills at the back. I do get carried away sometimes watching our defensive sides and just kind of really appreciating it. I think it kind of really goes back to the first time I saw Woodgate play for us. I was just like, wow, that actually got me thinking, defence isn't a bad position, because to me before that it was all just the only interesting parts were like wingers and strikers, but you can really appreciate what good defenders do. And yeah, I think having that organisational side that Lenihan brings and being able to help the other two in the back three is going to really benefit us this season and be good to watch as well.
Middlesbrough get beat 5-0 against West Brom. Defensive errors galore. Thanks to
Nah, Steve Bruce is managing him, so it's not going to happen.
It's got to roll the sleeves up. Roll the sleeves up and just try our hardest and might get a result. But Dana, I want to hear your thoughts on Mark Bowler. Tom alluded to it, saying that he could potentially stick around. But I want to understand like how you're feeling about Mark Bowler's position, because yeah, he did play in that left centre back role on Friday night. But can you actually see him here by the end of the transfer window? Do you think he does have a future at the club?
I think he does have a future at the club. I don't think he will be a mainstay as a starter, because I kind of see a similar situation with Chuba Akpom in that he's really only here and in the team playing and starting because we don't have another left centre back. But I thought he did okay. He looked like a defender playing in a different defensive position. There were some shaky bits, but some good bits as well. He made a really good last-ditch interception in the second half from back. This is the part where I can't read my notes. Bakambu, there we go. And I really enjoyed that at the time. I do remember really enjoying that at the time. So I don't know. I think with Mark Bowler, we did mention it last season, didn't we? That he could play left centre back, and it's definitely an option. And it's good that we've got him there because he can cover left wing back and he can cover left centre back as well. But I think in an ideal world, Boro will probably want another left centre-back to play there, and then we'll see where Mark Bowler is. It's going to be an interesting season for him, because I think this is probably the first one he's gone into for a while now where you're thinking, okay, he's not the first choice.
Yeah, he isn't the first choice. And I would agree. Then, like the interception he made was really good against Bakambu. But then also, what I did like was his ability to get forward and overlap. There was a moment in the second half where Boro on the break, Ryan Giles had the ball, and just Mark Bowler came from absolute nowhere and just overlapped him just to try and create that bit of space where you get the ball across. And I thought it was really good, and it could give us a different dimension and options on if we want to really utilize him there. But if not, then that's totally cool, and we should probably look to bring in someone who's probably more suited to that role. But he hasn't done a bad job there. But then again, it was a pre-season. Things again, people are getting up to speed, and we might see another change probably come Saturday. But let's have a quick chat about Chuba Akpom, because you could say he was a Chuba Backpom because he played on Friday night. It's a difficult place to be in, really, for Chuba Akpom, isn't it? Because realistically, he's probably gone in the summer before like the end of September. But is there a way he could force his way in Wilder's plans, Tom?
I don't think so. And it's just kind of based on what Wilder's said. It's been mutually beneficial, really, for him to be playing in that game. He has offered us, some depth in the striker position, which we don't have a lot of. Personally, I'd have preferred it to be Uche, but love Uche. So, yeah, I don't think he will, but I think, there's been articles floated around the last couple of days saying if we're still in the same position depth-wise by West Brom, he might make the bench there. I think he'll probably carry on making the bench until we get other options in, and then, an offer comes in for him, and maybe Coburn is the only attacking option, or, we give a number to Kavanagh or something like that. But I think at the moment it's just mutually beneficial to both sides for him to be there.
Dana, on the same page as Tom?
Yeah, I feel like he's there because we just haven't brought in another striker. And I think the reason why he's there and Uche isn't is because Akpom probably fits the system and the style a little bit more, probably much more actually than Ikpeazu does. But I can't really see him being a part of the team next season. Chris Wilder seemed to make it clear that he's not part of his plans, but he's kind of had to scale that back a little bit because of the fact that we just don't have a striker in, and the season starts in 6 days when we're recording this. So yeah, I think it's just an option, a sort of standing option for now.
Yeah, and I must admit, though, I thought he did play quite well in the game, to be honest. I thought he held the ball up well, had some good touches, got in behind when we needed him to. And there was also a moment in the second half where the ball came across and he just touched it down lovely for Giles to have a strike. And unfortunately, we didn't capitalise on that.
Cross towards the end as well. Like prime David Beckham channeling him.
Yeah, lovely ball over the top one. Lovely little diag. So I think there is a player there in Chuba Akpom. I think you don't go through the entire of Arsenal's academy and have a good pedigree like that, but then not be a good footballer. But in terms of him making it at Middlesbrough this season, probably not going to happen. But there could be someone that might not be at Middlesbrough come the end of the transfer window. And then I want you to hold back your tears because 23-year-old Marcus Tavernier is linked with a move to Bournemouth for a fee around £10 million, which will probably rise a lot more because Middlesbrough did reject that first bid. But while they did compare Tav to Sadio Mane, of all people, in Liverpool's situation in an interview where he said Liverpool lost Mane and they weren't expecting to. The best player went and had to replace him. You just have to realise that that's football and anybody can go at any time during a window. Dana, you did get a mug with Dana Malt's, not Dana Malt's face on it, Marcus Tavernier's face on it. Imagine getting a mug with your own face on it. You got a mug with Marcus Tavernier's face on it. The malt curse is clearly not over, and it's still live and well. But is Chris Wilder suggesting that Boro could be without Tav or without Dana Malt by the end of August?
I think he's just being realistic. I mean, there is interest. There's been bids not back from Forest and Bournemouth. Excuse me. And when that's the case, I do think there comes a point where you have to look at it from a business perspective, and Tav will make Boro rake in a significant fee on top of what we've already got from Jed Spencer's transfer to Tottenham. So, that could be really well invested. So I do think there comes a point where you have to take the sort of sentimental glasses off, if you like, and look at it from a business perspective. But I really hope, and I said this in the Telegram chat, that the likes of Tav and Fry and even Jones, well, probably lesser Jones to an extent, but those players the assets of Middlesbrough's team will hold on for one more season because it's the first full season of Chris Wilder. And yes, I know that there's the temptation of a bump in wages there, but at the end of the day, Bournemouth are probably going to go down. Let's be honest. Scott Parker's not a great manager. I don't see where Tav fits in Bournemouth's team. I've seen so many of their fans say they don't need a midfielder. He'll probably be shafted out wide to left wing back, which we've seen him play there, but it's not his best position from what we've seen last season. So I would hope he would stick it out one more season and then review it at the end of the campaign. But there is that temptation for Premier League football, albeit it might be a year, but it's Premier League football at the end of the day. But yeah, fingers crossed he stays because he's a really big and important player for us.
Yeah, I can't really see Bournemouth staying in the Premier League this season with Scott Parker in charge, to be honest. But Dana's kind of alluded to it slightly, Tom. But how much of a miss do you think Tav will be if he does go to Bournemouth?
I think he'd be a massive miss. Like Dana's just said, he's a very important player, and even in the Marseille game, pre-season friendly, you could see how much he was putting a shift in, how much ground he covered, and I mentioned it numerous times last season. He's added like a physical part to his game since moving into centre mid, which I don't think he had too much of before. When he came in as a winger, I remember. I think it was under Pulis we played Leeds, and he just got absolutely bullied that game. But I couldn't see that happening now. He'd be a massive miss, and I don't think he's someone that we can afford to let go at the moment either. We're in the position where apparently we've got 3 bids in for strikers, and these clubs won't let them go until they have someone else. We have 14 players. We can't let Tav go until there's a replacement lined up and probably ready to sign on the day that he does go. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea at all, and I think it's going to be a massive miss to the team.
I agree. I think Tav was arguably our best player last season. He brings so much to this squad in terms of energy, and what I did really like on Friday night is not just his passing ability, but also it seems like this year that he's really getting forward into more positive positions and taking advantage of that. And I think his goal was very much deserved. And I think that'll be the biggest improvement what we see in Tav this season is probably that that XG, that XA, the expected stats to probably keep going up, but then also him actually delivering on that, and we're not being overly reliant on poor strikers not to finish chances, and things can get a little bit messy for him. And I think that's why people have criticised Tav and saying, well, he's not getting assists. Well, it's not his fault he's not getting assists because the strikers weren't converting the chances he was delivering. But I think Tav's just been sensational over like the last 12 to 18 months, and hopefully he can continue that trend wherever he ends up in the summer, in the end of the summer window. But I think Bournemouth for me is just a sideways move, if I'm honest. Yes, Boro might get a really good fee. In fair play, we're a business, and we should reinvest that to try and bring other players in if he does go. But for me, if I was to have like you were saying there, Dana, one season in the Premier League, you're under Scott Parker, who's probably going to really realistically get sacked halfway through the season if it doesn't pull his finger out. And they're going to be a new manager. That new manager might not even like him as well. But I think at Middlesbrough, you're safe. You've got Chris Wilder, who's most likely going to be here. If he's not, the next manager will come in and probably will pick Tav anyway on merit because of his ability and his energy that he brings to a team and gets them up the pitch. But if he does go, Tom, we've complimented him already, but Riley McGree, could you see him taking that Tav position, or would you like to see him in that number 10 role? Because it did give us a lot of fluidity on Friday night.
I think he's playing the number 10 role at the moment because we don't have any strikers. I don't expect to see that system used too often this season. I do think there might be some games where it is needed, but I think most of the time, Wilder's going to want to stick with the system we had last year with the two strikers. I do think if Tav went, Riley McGree would be the next to take his position. And I think it is something that the club's trying to put in place now in terms of pathways into the team. I think it's clear that, if Tav's not playing, McGree is, and then third choice behind them is Boyd Munns, who would then move up to number 2 if Tav left. As long as we don't sign a replacement, which I think if he did, then we would need one. But yeah, I think. If he did leave, it would be McGree and would be going like the pathway to the first team route. Yeah,
and I think McGree is arguably a fantastic replacement. If not, he definitely probably deserves to start the season. But if it's not McGree, Dan Mall, who would it be? Who would you like to see Boro replace him with?
I've gone with somebody that I've been a bit hot and cold on over. Well, since he's been in the Championship, but Hanno Masengo from Bristol City, and I'll just put the stats up here on YouTube if I can. He is very similar to Tav in his metrics. Obviously, goals and assists is very different. Masengo didn't score last season. Tav scored 4 assists for Tav as well, 2 for Masengo. But if you look at the successful attacking actions, the dribbles per 90, the offensive duels won, passes, accurate passes, it's all very similar. And the thing with Masengo, and shout out to Fev's Football Analytics, Bristol City Analytics account on Twitter for this, a little bit of insight on Masengo is he says that regarding his creative passing, Bristol City's style, which is sometimes direct, sometimes counter-attack, doesn't help. I think we see the best of Masengo in a more possession-heavy side with players around him to take a pass after he's broken from his man. He wants to give the ball to a teammate, then find a new position rather than do it alone. And as soon as I read that, I was thinking, okay, those combinations down that left-hand side, he's a right footer, but he's comfortable on his left foot. So I think he's, what's that word where you're both footed? I don't know what that word is, but that word. Yeah, ambidextrous. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jenna Martinez. But yeah, he's a very clever and quick-minded player that can make the ball stick and dictate play as well. But he's a good footballer, a good ball carrier, much like Marcus Tavernier is. And he's already a big asset for Bristol City. I think Nice and Leicester are after him, so it'd be a big coup if we can get him. But he is out of contract next summer. So there's a potential option there for Boro to maybe bring somebody like that in. But yeah, he is a good footballer. As I said, he's sometimes failed to convince, but there's potential in there. He's only 21, so again, you talk about building an asset there. I think he would be a fantastic signing.
Yeah, I think he signed for Bristol City in about 3 years ago. I think when he was like 17. I think he came from Monaco, didn't he? And
he did, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember there was quite a lot of media around the signing because he seemed to be the next best thing, next best thing since sliced bread. But he seemed to be like a really good talent, and he just struggled to kind of integrate himself in that Bristol City team. And I think I agree. Then like the style of Bristol City probably doesn't help him. But I think it's a really nice little find that, and appreciate Tav could be. I think Tav is replaceable. But in terms of that quality there with Masengo, I think that is a nice little fit for Boro. If we were to bring him in, hopefully get him for a nice fee as well. But who knows? I think Championship this season, I think it's very much wide open in terms of who's going to do well and who's going to do relatively quite poor. But let's move on to like our pre-predictions part of the show, because I know that this season's, this year's or this show's prediction is going to be really difficult because Boro have only got 14 senior players before the season starts. We're waiting a number of transfers to be done. Appreciate the World Cup's coming this year, which has made things a little bit harder in terms of things being a week earlier, and then also we don't know where Boro will be come August. We could sign 5 players and they all get injured and we still be in the same position. Chris Wilder could leave if Boro don't get the transfers that they want in. Anything can happen, and I think we should really stress that. And having 14 players with a week to go, it probably isn't the best preparation that Boro want and arguably want to be in. But is it a slight concern, Tom, to see us in this position with just 6 days to go before the season starts? Sorry,
I'd say yes and no. So I mean, from my side of things, I'm impatient. And I'd rather, we were coming into this preview pod today with all the new signings in place, ready to talk about, and I suppose it would have made the predictions a little bit easier as well. But we haven't. But also, when you think about it, we did have most of our signings in place last season, so much so that I had Sammy Amiobi as my pick of the season, and it just, well, look how that went. So I think it's...
Sorry, I just choked on my coffee when you said that.
So I think it does go to show something that the Boro are looking at getting the best players we can possibly get. And, it's taken a little while longer to get them this season, which, you kind of have to just accept and, be all right with, because, hopefully by the end of the transfer window, we'll have all these players in and can look back at it and say, what a fantastic window we've had. But, the week before the season, it is concerning. But when you look at it, that team that's going into the first game, it's still arguably better than our first 11 last season. It's just we have no bench options. So, if anyone gets injured or we need to make any tactical changes, we're extremely limited there.
Saying that, obviously, the 11's a lot better than it was last season. He is both confident we can actually get these players over the line, because historically Middlesbrough have struggled to get the players they want over the line, and a lot's been said around it, and not just Chris Wilder, but a number of managers at Middlesbrough have kind of argued and been frustrated with the signings that we've ended up making. Appreciate this year could be different with Kieran Scott in charge of more of like the footballing side of things, but Danny, are you confident we can get these players over the line? Maybe not just this week, but until the end of August.
I am, yeah. What Chris Wilder said is that he's waiting on a lot of deals to be done. That domino effect of the transfer window, where, for example, you see, I think Rodrigo Muniz is one of Boro's targets. Fulham have to bring in a striker in order for him to leave, and for Fulham to sanction that loan deal. So, yeah, I think it's probably on teams and clubs to sign players, and then it'll be a case of kind of get the ball rolling with the strikers. But it's obviously it's frustrating as a fan because we don't know the ins of things. But from an outsider's perspective looking in, I can only assume that it is that, and you take Chris Wilder's word for it, that it is just a case of waiting for Premier League teams to sign players so that it can be allowed that the players that they have now can leave on loan or leave on a permanent. So yeah, I am confident. Obviously, it's not ideal that we don't have them in right now and that the season kicks off next weekend and we still don't have the options up front beyond Watmore and Coburn, but I'm not really worried. It's definitely something to be mindful of, but I'm sure it won't be that detrimental to the season to go a few games without our number one striker choice.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you, really, then, how much of an impact do you think it'll have? Because Boro have 8 games until the end of the transfer window. How much of an impact do you think that'll have then for us trying to bring players in, get them used to the system, and then get them starting? Because I appreciate sometimes a striker or a player can take a full season to get used to the system.
Yeah, as I said, it would have been ideal if they were in pre-season before the Portugal trip, but unfortunately it didn't happen like that. I don't think it's too much of a detrimental factor. It could well be, but we'll look back at that in hindsight. I just think, I mean, you look at teams like Cardiff, for example, who've recruited quite well in terms of quantity, but will they gel? Sometimes you have a situation where you bring in quite a few players and they just don't gel in not in time, but they just don't gel. And I don't know, I feel like with Middlesbrough, we will bring in the players, and we have to remember that we're not the only club in this situation. There's other teams that need strikers. There's other teams that need wing backs, for example. I think Preston are probably one of the teams that need wing backs. So there's different positions for different teams that they'll probably be asking the same question. Will it have so much of an impact in the beginning quarter of the season? But I think we'll be fine. I'm hoping that we'll be fine. And I think we will be.
Relegated. I'm joking. Tom, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I know Dana's answered maybe one of them around confidence in terms of getting players over the line. I want to see where you're at with that. But also, if we don't get the players in, can we see like any academy players staking a claim in the sides? Look, we've seen it over the last couple of seasons. Isaiah Jones, Coulson, Spence have all came into the sides and done relatively quite well. So can you see any academy players coming in at the team if we don't bring the new players in?
Well, I mean, to answer your first question, I'm confident as well that we can get players over the line. I think you just need to look at who we've already signed to show the quality of the players that we're getting and how much players are actually buying into this project. Lenihan, Giles, Stefan. I don't think there's another championship team who wouldn't have those in the team. I think we've done extremely well to recruit them, and I am confident that we'll get more quality players from this window. And maybe that's just the difference in the approach we're taking. You can wait a while longer and get these quality players, or you can get all your business done at the start and sign Sammy Amiobi. So I think by the end of the window, we should have who we want in. In terms of the academy players coming through, it's difficult to call at the moment because they've not been given numbers, quite a lot of them. I do think we'll probably see more of Boyd Munster this season. He's one of the only younger players who has been given a number. So I do think we'll see more of him this season. And also, I'd heard good things throughout pre-season about Bolongo and Kavanagh. Maybe a little bit too soon for Kavanagh, but I do think depth-wise, if we're still without Fry and McNair and Bowler goes down with an injury, Bolongo's who we have there. So I think it's more likely that he would play out of the two of them. And like I said, I'd heard good things. I've not managed to see a lot of him yet, but there's been kind of a lot of talking noise around them about how good he's played. So I would think if anyone from the academy would make a breakthrough this season, it might be him.
Okay, then. Well, we'll soon see come Saturday if he's on the bench or not. But let's do predictions, because this is the season preview show and we do have predictions. They could be good. That could be absolutely terrible. We could have a a where's a Jed Spence, or we could have a where's a Sammy Amiobi, and where, rest in peace, Elliot, a Sam Stubbs. But
Rest in peace, Elliot.
he's dead to me since he left the podcast.
He's fine, guys. He's fine.
I know. He's probably laughing at that.
Trapped
anyway.
in a hall of mirrors, I heard.
Yeah, trapped in the hall of mirrors. No one will get that reference. But
we will.
We will, and we'll laugh about it. But maybe have a think. You know, what are we on about? What is the Hall of Mirrors? What Elliot is trapped himself in. But let's. I know. Look, we're going to have to probably change these in September. We'll revisit it. We'll do a stick or twist on our transfer review show come the end of August, where I'll let you change maybe one or two of the things depending on who we bring in or who leaves. But the first question. Where do you think Boro will finish? This could be a question that will probably, your answer may change, but right now we've got 14 players. You might not even finish top 6. But as the season comes to a close, where do you think Boro will finish? Tom, do you want to go first?
Right, at the moment, I've got 6th. I'm going to go one place. Is it one place or two places higher than last season? I can't remember where we finished.
One place.
So I'm going one place better than last season. I think, as I said earlier, defensively and in goal, we look a lot more solid now. And I think those games last season where goalkeeping errors cost us the points are going to be so much lessened this season, hopefully. And, you know, by having this defensive structure in place, that should win us enough points to be better than last season. I've only went for 6th though because of the depth at the moment. You know, if we end up with an absolute plague of injuries, you know, that could really suffer. So I do think that would balance it out.
Okay, 6th. But if we did get the players in, would you go any higher, or would you?
We'll have to save that for the stick or twist. See how it is.
Okay, I'll leave it for stick or twist. Dynamol, the real Dynamol. What are you going to go for? What's your prediction? Where do you think Boro will finish?
I'm going to go for 4th, which is bold because we're sat on 2 strikers at the moment in Coburn and Watmore. But I just feel like it's the Chris Wilder factor, really, that's taking it forward for me. And yeah, I think that is with extra additions in mind. I've been flickering between that and 6th, but I think 4th.
Okay, I'm going to say 5th. So we're going to have a nice little sandwich there. But I'm going to say playoffs. We're going to do it. We're going to go to Wembley and beat the curse. We're going to do it. The malt curse TM will be broken at Wembley. Next one is who is going up and who is going down. So your top 3 and your bottom 3. Dana, do you want to go first on this one?
Yes, my top 3. Well, I actually had a top 2. I didn't actually decide on who's going to win the playoffs, so they'll probably decide on the spot. Watford champions, Sheffield United 2nd, and then my top 6 is actually Norwich, Boro, West Brom, and Burnley, I think. And I'm going to go. Oh, part of me's thinking Norwich to win in the playoffs. The other part is thinking we are. You know what? We'll go with Boro. We'll get that redemption arc. We'll beat Norwich in the final, and all will be well with the world. And then my 3 to go down are Reading, Blackpool, Rotherham in that order.
Reading, Blackpool, and Rotherham. So is that Rotherham dead last year, and then Reading third bottom? Yeah,
standard.
Yeah, standard. Tom, top 3. Who's going up and who's going down?
So going up, I have Watford, Norwich, and then Boro winning the playoffs because I'm going to backers again. And then going down, Reading. I think it would be a massive surprise if they stayed up. I was tempted to say Rotherham, but I just feel like last time they did nearly stay up and they played some all right football towards the end of the season to nearly save themselves. And realistically, it was because of Derby's lack of points deduction that they did go down. So I'm going to say they stay up. I'm going to go Birmingham to go down. And as an outside chance, I'm saying Hull I just think they're going to go one of two ways this season. It's either all these players that have signed are going to gel really well and fire them up the league, or it's going to be like when we signed the SPL and just absolutely sank like a brick. So, yeah, I'm going to go Hull as my third outside chance for relegation.
Okay, so who do you think is going to finish dead last? Do you think Reading's dead last, and then?
Yeah,
okay. Poor Reading fans. Our heart with the Helms Royal podcast on the tire list and at this moment in time, because I'm going to say they're going to go down as well. My bottom three, I'm going to go Reading, Rotherham, and Blackpool, and then my top three, I'm the same as you. I'm going to go Watford, Sheffield United, and then we're going to win the playoffs against Norwich, and LA Boston's going to run on and absolutely ping one top bins just after the game, just to have the redemption story that he always wanted. And then the next one is surprise package team of the season. Disclaimer, mine is not Coventry this season after 2 consecutive seasons. I'm going to go with someone else this year. Tom, who are you going to go for? Who's your surprise package team of the season?
I'm going to go for Swansea. I just think, they did play good football last season. And I think with a full pre-season under the belts, I think they're going to kick on and be much better this season.
Okay. Dana?
Some strike force Swansea have as well, by the way, so it's a good shout. I just think defensively they're a bit sus. They're a bit leaky. But building blocks there.
Yeah, what the what? Yeah. What are the one?
Yeah, but we sort of spoke about Wood, didn't we? He's a bit potential. He's potential. But my pick is Bristol City. I think they've got a good team and they've got a good strike force. Vyman, Semenyo, granted Semenyo is out until the winter, I think, but they picked up Cal Naismith from Luton, really good pickup. That left-sided centre-back spot sorted, and they got Kane Wilson as well, League Two player of the season. So I think they've recruited well. They've obviously got they've got good footballers like Masengo, like Alex Scott. I think they've got a good blend. But whether or not they will actually end up come the end of the season in a position where I'm thinking, they've been a surprise. I'm thinking more of they'll be a surprise package at one part of the season and then they might dip. But I think they've got a good team. They've got a good foundation there to have a good season.
Yeah, for a second I thought when you said Alex Scott, I thought of like the presenter for England International.
Me too.
Yeah, I was like, wow, when did she sign for? She'd be amazing if she did. But yeah, it's a good one. I didn't think of Bristol City at all. To be honest, they weren't even in my reckoning of teams to be a surprise package. I've went with two. I'm struggling with two of these because I want to go with Preston, but I feel like they just lack a bit of depth. And if they have the depth, they'll do really well. But if they don't, I'm going to go Wigan. Liam Richardson did a really good job there last year, especially with like all the financial problems they had over like the last 2 years and the way that they're coming back now. I think they could be in a really good place, and I'm hoping that they do quite well. I don't think they'll be like a top 6 or anything like that. I think it's going to be probably a 10th to 13th, but I think it's going to be a surprise because they've just came up and they're going to be very comfortable in the division this season. Now that I've probably said that, they'll probably finish 24th on like the lowest points ever. But that's the part of the Dana Malt curse, you know. The next question is Boro Young Player of the Year. Now, look, like I said, that we've got 14 players right now. This could change, and we could do the stick or twist in a couple of weeks. Let's just do a show called Stick or Twist, and we'll just go through these again.
And then play blackjack.
Yeah. Or just go all in, Tom. Just go all in. Again, another reference that no one will even understand apart from me and Tom. But
and me.
You would know. Yeah, actually, yeah, you did know. Yeah, because we spoke about it last.
You told me in the bloody car.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was thinking. Now I was like, oh yeah. Young Player of the Year. Dana, who would you want to go for?
Yeah, there's not a lot of options here, really, is there? I've gone for Ryan Giles because I think he's going to have a good season. I'm really, really excited about Giles. He's literally the perfect signing for us. If we could create a player that is literally the definition of perfection, it would be Ryan Giles. An outlet on the left, great delivery, great set piece, young player, available, perfect signing. Really, really good pickup.
Gorgeous, you know, six-pack, good personality. Take home with your family.
Stop saying this, you'll end up on Love Island.
Oh, yeah. You are a liar.
You are a liar.
We have to get that in somewhere. But yeah, Ryan Giles.
Ryan Giles, okay. So I'm assuming Ryan Giles has taken the Tav shrine. If Tav leaves.
Tav hasn't even taken the Dijksteel shrine yet.
Yeah, fair enough. No, fair enough. It's like don't fall in love with a lone player. It's going to be that Ryan Giles. It's going to be Ryan Giles this season, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Tom, who's going to be a young player of the year?
I've gone for Isaiah Jones. I think he's going to really kick on this season. I think he did struggle a bit towards the end when, we were so unbalanced. Everyone always knew it was going through him and they were like doubling and tripling up on him and stuff. I just think now with a much more balanced team, and it's clear that, we've been working on this like one-touch football and stuff. I think he's going to get, released into space quite a lot more and being able to replicate the form from, the first half of last season.
Yep. It is nice to see that we've addressed that kind of like that slow build-up play at times, because it will completely take away that low block from other teams and try and take them out. But I agree. I'm going with Isaiah Jones as well. I can't believe that we found out that Ryan Giles is younger than Isaiah Jones earlier down. That was kind of a bit of a mind-blown moment. But yeah, I think Jones is the natural pick for that. But then let's go on to Boro Player of the Year. Look, and again, this is quite a difficult one, but right now, where are we at with it? Tom, do you want to take this one first?
It feels like I've not stopped talking about him in this pod, but Darragh Lenihan, I just think he's going to be massively important to us. Like I said earlier, in terms of his organisational skills and leadership in defence, it's good that we've got him there, as well as, Howson's still going to be captain and there's a certain amount of influence he has. But I do feel like this is something we've been missing from defence for quite a while, and you can see the effect he has. And like I said earlier, so comfortable on the ball and being able to play it out from the back. So, yeah, I think he's going to be one of our most important players this season.
Okay, Lenihan for you. Dana, do you have one?
I do. I agree with Tom. I think Lenihan, we'll obviously revisit this, won't we? Because I feel like the player of the season might be a forward. But right now, I think Lenihan will definitely be in contention for that. And yeah, as I said at the top of the show, a really good pickup, and on a free as well. That could end up being really fantastic business. There's good signs already. So yeah, Lenihan, player of the season pick for me so far.
Okay, I'm going to go with
pick. That made it sound like I was doing like a review there. Prediction.
You look at the future already. Yeah, build the statue next to the chip fan on the cars. Mine is going to be Riley McGree. I think he's going to have a fantastic season this year. Everything that we spoke about earlier, I think he's just a wonderful, wonderful talent, and he's been a really good pickup as well. What was like 350k? Was it? I think we picked him up for from Birmingham. Was it something as low as that?
No, it's from that MLS team. Charlotte.
Yeah, sorry, Charlotte. Yeah. But either
they were
way,
losing 4-0 at halftime last night. I saw.
Fantastic.
Can't remember who the team was.
Before all, if they had McGree.
Exactly.
Yeah, before they had McGree. Yeah.
Serves them right.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's going to have a fantastic season, personally. Wonderful, wonderful footballer. Massively underrated, probably by fans, I think, at the minute. Like, the quality that he brings is just whew, it's very good. Very good. Very excited for him this season. Bold predictions, then. Could be anything. Tom, what's going to be your bold prediction this season?
I've got a good one for this season. We finally become a threat from corners and live up to our set piece specialist reputation that we have on Sky. I think you can see the the quality of delivery has increased now with Giles taking them. Obviously, we didn't see at the Marseille game any kind of chances from them, but I do think that's a little bit hard when you look at the size of their defensive line. But I do think we're going to finally get quite a few goals off corners this season.
Okay, then. For my ball prediction, I'm gonna go. Oh god, I can't think of it now. I'm trying to think of. I think Tom's is such a good one. Like I think like live up to the set piece team. Actually, mine is. I think Lenihan will outscore Duncan Watmore this season. Is my bold prediction. From all the set pieces that we're going to be getting and being good at this season. Dana, what's your bold prediction?
I've gone for that a Boro striker will reach 15 goals.
But not 20 though. Not the Bernie Slaven
No,
record.
I'm not. No, I'm not stretching it. I can't bring myself to stretch it that far.
Okay, Bernie Slaven lives for another season. The record lives. And the final question of our predictions and previews then is: if you could ask one question about Boro that will find its answer at the end of the season, what will it be? Dana, do you want to go first?
I've gone for: have we become more of a balanced team when it comes to attacking down the right and attacking down the left? Basically, have we got an outlet on the left? Is my question.
Okay, have we got an outlet on the left? Tom, what are you going to go for?
And will we add the depth we need to get up to a 23/24 man squad by the end of the window? And if we don't manage to, will the squad last a full season? Because I think it's been reported that the fitness levels are better this season, and it certainly looked it on Friday night. You know, the amount of running that Matt Crooks did. I mean, you look at like him outpacing some of the Marseille players, and like, he couldn't do that last season. Like, this is clearly something we focused on. So is our fitness going to carry us through if we don't get the depth?
That's a good one. I think, they're like a depth's a concern, isn't it? I think mine will probably be: will we last the full season in terms of level of consistency and performances? Because I think last year we tired out so much towards the back end of the season. And maybe that's because of the preparation wasn't right at the start of the season. Maybe we were working too hard off the pitch to try and get these players up to speed. So I'm really intrigued to see if we last like physically until the end of the season. And I think the answer would be the last 10 games. What do our results look like? Do we burn out, or do we remain consistent and get to the position where we want to get to? But that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me as always. And that the season preview is done and dusted, and the season is around the corner in 6 days. But I think we'll be back later this week where we're going to discuss Boro's game against the Baggies at the Riverside. But for now, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was all your Boro Matchday chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.